The biggest sin is to use my womanhood to silence my humanity. To use a weapon meant to oppress, repress, and diminish women in order to perpetuate even greater human rights violations.
A sex video, undeclared wealth, drug trafficking. These are the allegations against Senator Laila de Lima. 2016 was one of the worst years for Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte's biggest critic. In just 6 months, de Lima's reputation goes from human rights defender to protector of drug syndicates.
Mr. President, I have been vilified and attacked not only in social media, but also by the President's men as a drug lord coddler and protector.
It started in October 2016. As the senator's criticism of Duterte's bloody drug war intensifies, so does the probe into her alleged drug trafficking links.
Sa iyong pagkakalam, alam ba ni Secretary de Lima kung sino ang mga drug lord at mga operasyon ng mga drug lord sa labas at loob ng kulungan?
I'm not sure about sa labas, but I'm sure alam niya kung sino yung nasa loob.
Online supporters of the president also revel in screenshots of her supposed sex video. Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre himself claims de Lima has 3 sex videos that can be used as evidence against her character. De Lima's camp says there are no such videos. Disinformation in social media also claims de Lima bought a $6 million mansion in New York City, was kicked out of a conference in Germany, and that her son was arrested in an airport for carrying drugs. All are false. The senator is also often quoted in fake news reports for things she never said. By February 2017, de Lima is in jail. The second woman in power to feel the ire of the president, Vice President Leni Robredo. Accused of cheating to win the 2016 elections and plotting to oust Duterte, Robredo is a constant subject of false reports. In mid-2016, blogs and Facebook accounts spread rumors of Robredo's alleged affair with another politician. There are also false reports of a subsequent pregnancy and abortion. In March 2017, Robredo is embroiled in even more fake news after she speaks out against Duterte's drug war in an international conference.
It is already February 2017, and the body count due to drug-related killings keeps growing. We are now looking at some very grim statistics. Since July last year, more than 7,000 people have been killed in summary executions.
Reports include her getting slapped with travel sanctions by the U.S. State Department and heckled during another talk abroad.
The difficult thing about it is lies that are constantly being told becomes the truth.
Right.
So how it's really a whole new world that we're traversing, and we hope we would have the answers, but we just hope that people will be more discerning. People will take it upon themselves to check whether what they're reading online.
There are chilling similarities between the two women. Both have influence and are vocal against the newly elected president. Both find themselves the subjects of disinformation campaigns. A year into the Duterte presidency, and a pattern becomes clear. Misogynistic comments are repeated over and over again. A series of fabricated stories undermine the reputation of victims. Patriotic trolling. This is the term now used to describe targeted state-sponsored online hate and harassment campaigns leveraged to silence and intimidate individuals. Evidence in the past 2 years show that this is in full swing here in the Philippines. Maria Ressa, a Filipino journalist and CEO of social news network Rappler, monitored the government's propaganda machine from the beginning.
This is the first time social media machinery actually helped elect the president in the Philippines. And then a few months after President Duterte was elected, we saw the campaign machinery pivot and become weaponized.
In the 2016 presidential elections, the Duterte campaign successfully created a potent online distribution network, a mix of paid efforts and volunteers that helped elect then Davao City Mayor Duterte as president. This network cut across different geographical groups, delivering messages especially designed to tap into Filipinos' anger towards elitist politics. But it was after Duterte was proclaimed president that this network was weaponized. The network evolved. Its messaging transformed to stifle dissent, attacking anyone who dares speak out against the president with profanities and name-calling. These attacks are amplified by fake news, fake accounts, bots, and so-called keyboard warriors sowing confusion and distrust. The effect? A spiral of silence. People are afraid to speak up online.
It took anger that was already there in the society, it hit fracture lines in the society, and then splintered so that people were attacking each other. People couldn't tell the difference between fact and fiction. And in that kind of environment, what you have is the voice with the loudest megaphone wins.
This propaganda machine attacks not just public officials, but even civilians. 21-year-old student Nicole De Castro is one of many netizens who experienced firsthand just how vicious these attacks could be. In November 2016, the Duterte administration allows the burial of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos in the Hero Cemetery almost 30 years since his death. De Castro, like many millennials, joins protests on the streets. She is caught on video carrying a sign that reads, "Marcos is not a hero," and arguing with hecklers. The video is posted without context on social media and immediately goes viral. The attacks come in droves. The threats are misogynist and foul. She is threatened with gang rape.
There was fear for my life as well, and for my family. That was my most concern because my dad, he uses Facebook, and my mom as well. So they would see those comments, and then I have relatives as well who would try to defend me, and then these trolls or real people, which is worse, I believe, they would comment back to my relatives and friends. So that's what affected me the most. But what's really concerning for me is how about the other girls, like other girls and other people who are experiencing this. They wouldn't get this as much support.
While some comments are from real people, who are behind the fake accounts that sow hate and fan the flames? Pamela Combinido is one of several Filipino researchers working with the Newton Tech for Dev network. The group published a study that shows the architects of disinformation in the Philippines are not who most people would suspect. Rather than random, hateful individuals, the study finds there is instead a complex system to the entire operation.
Here in the study, we uncovered the professionalized and hierarchized work of political groups doing political campaigns. So we argue in this study that this work is professionalized and ordinary. It's hierarchical, and in terms of expertise, it's very sophisticated. Yeah, and we also tried to recommend some solutions on how we could deal with the information pollution that we are grappling with now.
According to the study, advertising and public relations executives of boutique agencies serve political clients on the side. These executives are at the top level of the networked disinformation hierarchy. They are the ones who strategize and set campaign objectives. On the second level are anonymous digital influencers who usually operate one or more Facebook pages or Twitter feeds that have anywhere from 50,000 to 2 million followers. They are the content creators of memes and viral posts and are crucial in amplifying and reinforcing the core messages set by the high-profile bloggers and influencers hired for the campaign. And at the bottom of the hierarchy are fake account operators who do the grunt work. They comment and share and create an illusion of engagement. Together, they create an organized, deadly, and powerful propaganda operation.
So that's how they do. So they amplify the message. These influencers and fake account operators amplify the messages that the clients and the chief architect agreed on.
Kailan ba nagkaroon ng malawakang pagkilos upang pukpukin ang pulisya na tugisin ang mga kriminal, lalo na yung malalaki?
Evidence of how quickly the network can act is seen in the case of Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, yet another woman in power. In late 2017, a Duterte ally files an impeachment complaint against her. Congress begins deliberating the case in September 2017, roughly 2 weeks after the complaint was endorsed by 25 lawmakers. It was former President Benigno Aquino III, a member of the opposition, who appointed Sereno as Chief Justice. By November 2017, the propaganda machine starts spreading false reports that Sereno escaped and left the country. Within 2 days, at least 8 websites carry the story. These are quickly shared across a network of at least 58 pro-Duterte Facebook groups and pages.
May I request the members in favor of finding probable cause to please rise.
By March, Congress finds probable cause to impeach Sereno, a move critics condemn as harassment. Clarissa David, a professor from the University of the Philippines, explains why disinformation on social media is usually related to politics.
All of this is happening around politics because politics is very polarizing, and the platforms are rigged to encourage a lot of polarizing content, sharing of polarizing content, because things that make us angry, things that make us fearful are shared more frequently, are liked more frequently, and then people get hyped up and then they comment. So as a result, the stories get more traction on the platform.
Mix emotions with various actors in play, and what you get is what Ressa calls death by 1,000 cuts.
You're creating a very complex ecosystem here where you have real people, believers, amplified by bots, automated accounts, and then fake accounts that are meant to cause a kind of movement, right? And the end goal here is to flood the market with so much information. So what you're doing in this environment is you flood the market with lies to the point that society can't tell fact from fiction. And when you don't know what to believe, then your loudest voice, your president, then gets the power.
And then there are the pro-Duterte bloggers.
Okay, ito to, kuya, halika. Ayan, dali. Siyempre, kailangan may makasama rin tayo dito sa entablado.
This is Mocha Uson, a former sexy dancer turned Duterte propagandist.
Huwag mong araw-arawin ang katangahan mo. Bumili ka ng utak at hindi na mga mamamahaling damit.
Her Facebook page has more than 5 million followers. This is Sasraganda Sasot, a Filipina student living in the Netherlands.
Sira ulo ba kay Rappler? Didn't you study Philippine and American history?
And this is RJ Nieto. He's better known by his pen name Thinking Pinoy.
Tapos akala nyo kung sino kaiinam. Angin na nyo uli.
All 3 bloggers are considered the president's biggest supporters online, amassing more than 7 million followers on Facebook, more than other credible sources. How do they do it? They use hate rhetoric that resonates with the frustrations of ordinary Filipinos, highlighting President Duterte as the agent of change, the strongman from the neglected South who will go head-to-head with the power elites and corrupt politicians. They also slam and spread vicious memes and posts about Duterte's critics, as well as share disinformation, all while escaping accountability. The message is simple. If you go against this strongman, you are an enemy of change. Together, these 3 bloggers produce content that cut across 3 major groups: the masses, pseudo-intellectuals, and the middle class. In return, the trust that the government puts in these bloggers are undeniable. Uso now holds a government post under the Presidential Communications Office, while Nieto was hired as a consultant of the Foreign Affairs Department. Malacanang even has a new and controversial policy of accrediting bloggers to cover the president, a privilege previously accorded only to journalists who undergo thorough vetting. In an interview with Rappler, Presidential Communications Assistant Secretary Chris Ablan defends the decision.
PCOO recognizes that bloggers, we have to recognize that bloggers deliver information. And if we don't recognize bloggers, then it's a big segment, we believe, that will not be receiving the proper information. So we recognize them because we feel that by giving information to them, they'll be able to share it to their followers, to their friends, and everyone that follows their blogs.
In theory, having bloggers there and citizen journalists is a welcome opportunity for more people to be involved. But what then happens when the person who accredits these bloggers has been constantly accused of being a purveyor of disinformation?
Well, Natasha, that shouldn't be a justification to not have accreditation. I feel that if the problem would be the office or the person behind the office in implementing it, then that should be addressed, not the whole program.
Indeed, in the age of social media, journalists are no longer the gatekeepers of information. Everyone is now given the power to publish their own content online. And while this democratizes information, it also comes at a price. This gives rise to a new player in the information ecosystem: algorithms that rank content served on news feeds. As machines take over the critical role of filtering what people see online, they also foster the rise of a disinformation ecosystem.
What do they see? They see a whole mix of stuff, but they see a mix that is predetermined by some algorithm and by your friends and the pages that you follow, right? So you have a silo, and that's everything that you see.
David also says platforms like Facebook can easily be gamed to prioritize content by propaganda machines over that of legitimate news organizations.
Facebook can give news organizations the power to insert content to people's feeds that they may not be interested in normally. But they don't do that. They just do everything by algorithm. And by doing that, what they do is, if you pay them advertising dollars or pesos to push content to certain targeted subgroups, it can be done. So what happens is, legitimate news organizations, which very often out of principle won't do that, matatalo sila by propaganda machines that do that on a regular basis and have no ethical bounds to not do it.
Carly Meest, a human rights lawyer and tech consultant, studies patriotic trolling worldwide. She says there is a disturbing patterns across different countries.
Governments are deploying automated social media messaging to create a feeling of overwhelming numbers and a groundswell, if you will. We see attacks mostly directed at journalists and activists, those that speak out against the status quo, really. We see attacks using really violent language, misogynistic language, designed really to intimidate critics of the government and to silence them. We see quite often the use of claims of affiliation with foreign intelligence agencies. That's quite a common tactic used.
It sounds all too familiar for the Philippines. While governments using propaganda and disinformation campaigns are nothing new, social media drastically change their scale and the speed with which they are disseminated.
Know that part and parcel of that violence is disinformation or hate speech against vulnerable communities.
Sherian George, a professor in the Department of Journalism at Hong Kong Baptist University, researches media freedom, censorship, and hate propaganda. He explains there's a fake side to the fake news phenomenon.
The fake side surfaces when leaders say that they're very worried about the fake news phenomenon, but in fact what they're really worried about is legitimate, responsible media saying things that they don't like. Yeah? And that needs to be distinguished from the genuine problem of fake news, which is more like industrial scale lying, the use of robots to troll, the setting up of fake news websites and so on, that are really concerted efforts to mislead the public and to subvert public opinion and democracy. And this is a serious problem that I think requires attention from internet platforms to citizens, journalists, and so on.
How serious is the problem exactly? A 2017 study by US-based human rights watchdog Freedom House finds that out of 65 countries, 30 governments deploy some form of manipulation to distort online information. In China, around 450 million fabricated social media posts are used to distract the people from issues hounding the government every year. Russia is under fire for interfering in the 2016 US presidential elections by manipulating discussions and spreading fake news. The Freedom House report claims governments like Turkey, Venezuela, and the Philippines all use cyber armies to manipulate discussions, drive state agendas, and combat critics on social media. Despite this, the Philippine government denies using these methods. How then will people be assured that government money is being used to combat fake news and not for disinformation?
Right. Let me state it that no government funds are used for misinformation. Government funds are used to disseminate government information, period.
It's clear the problem is widespread, serious, and global. What is the response of social media platforms like Facebook? Not much. And when they finally did act, it was too little, too late. As early as August 2016, Ressa tells Facebook about her observations in the Philippines after she was alarmed by the use and spread of hateful comments before and after the elections. She asks the Silicon Valley powerhouse to do something about it.
It's methodical. And then, like, as a joke, you gotta look at this because US elections are coming up. And, I said, if you're not careful, Trump could win. And everyone laughed because at that point, it seemed laughable, right? And then after he won in November, they came back and asked me for the data again.
Facebook's first response to allegations that their platform was used by foreign agents to influence the US elections was to deny it. But as more evidence surfaced, Facebook is eventually forced to acknowledge the role it played. Facebook pledges to solve the problem, tweaking their algorithms and launching tools to combat false information. Other tech companies like Twitter and Google also have their own measures to stop the spread of disinformation. By 2018, Facebook announces a hotly debated solution to the problem. They're changing the algorithm to give public content less visibility and will be asking their community to rank publications on a scale of trustworthiness. But in a world where people can't distinguish fake from real news, would asking consumers really solve anything? Or will it only add fuel to the fire? One thing is clear. While the world waits for the platforms to solve the problem, there are changes we need to push for.
Our citizens and ourselves as educators, as journalists and so on, need to be reminded that democracy is more than just a numbers game. It's not just popularity that counts. It's not just the number of likes you get. There is still a difference between right and wrong. There's still principles like equality and human rights that need to be fought for. It doesn't matter if a president is popular. If he's wrong, he's wrong. It doesn't matter if the journalists don't have the masses on their side. If they're right, they still deserve support.
Remembering this very essence of democracy is crucial. Respect for diversity. This is where ordinary citizens like De Castro come in to help.
I believe we should go to the root level, which is to really educate our to educate our people. It goes to their belief system, it goes to their schools, their families, to mold them into to have these misogynistic behaviors. So it's gonna take a really long time, but I have hope.
For now, the hope is with awareness of online users comes vigilance over the sources of information they consume and share. So the next time you see a story or a comment or a post online, think twice. Do your part in ensuring you are not a victim or a perpetrator of the problem. Natasha Gutierrez, Rappler, Manila.